Welcome to The Shield Within. The issues discussed on the Shield Within podcast do not reflect the opinions of any specific agency. They are the views of the host and the guest. Any persons discussed may be fictional for comedic purposes only. This podcast is rated explicit and listener discretion is advised. Listening to The Shield Within may trigger repressed or suppressed memories or experiences. Please contact a mental health professional at your earliest convenience. It's time for the chaos to cease.
Time to open yourself to peace.
From the hours you've put in,
to the next shift you begin.
From the endless pursuit of release
that finds the worst unleashed.
Transform the ugly into a win.
Get to know your shield within.
Right, you love me, Dr.
That's right.
We do. And welcome to The Shield Within.
Oh, you're not
I'm not giving time this time because we got a little listener feedback, so stop saying good afternoon, good evening, good morning, whatever. Welcome. Just welcome to The Shield Within. I'm your host, Marc the Cop, and today, to my immediate right, we have the Kelli. And then we have
Dr.
David.
And
Dr. David.
Mr. Hat.
And
Mrs. Hat.
Mrs. Hat is
and
with
Mrs.
us today.
Hat. Yeah. Hey, Mrs. Hat. How are you?
She come in to join. You can talk into the microphone there.
Mm-hmm.
Say hi.
Oh, I lied. I took it up. Here we go. Wait, stand by. Here we go.
Hello,
just say hi. Say like no.
You can say hi to her.
Hi, Mrs. Hat.
Come on.
Oh, she's being bashful. But that's all right.
Hello.
We'll have her lean in there.
Hello.
So. Hello. But anyway, welcome to The Shield Within.
I'm not the only gal here.
I'm going to mute you. If you're on Facebook, please stop by and give us a look. It's at Facebook.com/The Shield Within. You can stop by our newly refreshed website, which is www.theshieldwithin.com. We actually have a video gallery or a photo gallery on there. You can see our new porn star, FD Donnie, if you want to stop by and take a look at him. Thinking about getting some stickers made. Speaking of which, we have merch on the way. And if you really love The Shield Within, we now have the opportunity for you to join up for about $5 a month and support the show. What do you get for that? Not a whole hell of a lot at this point, other than a couple of stickers and maybe a refrigerator magnet. But what we are going to be doing is I would like to do some Dr. David inspirationals and just some other. We do have a really drunk episode that Jeff and I did, Mr. Hat and I did, that we may split that up into 2 episodes, maybe like, just a shit show.
What?
So we're on Patreon and we're also on Spotify. So Anchor is no longer a thing. Spotify is now has bought them, and they are
probably for the best.
Well, not a big deal. I mean, just bigger and better. We also like for you to stop by and give us a like, please, and a rating, or if you can get on Apple and leave us a review, we really, really appreciate that. And the reason why that is, that helps us on the business end. So the more likes we got is what it does, it facilitates this podcast to be shared out with the rest of the world. And we really appreciate y'all dialing in and listening. Also, if you become a subscriber, we'll give you an on-air shout out. So like say, hey, the Kelli signed up, yay! But that's really not what it's about.
But
hasn't
signed up yet.
But putting a podcast on like this with quality, we're not just your average podcast. We don't have a universal, like a meeting mic in the middle of the table and we talk. And some shows you can hear that. It's a lot of background noise. FD Donnie's our engineer, our sound engineer and producer. He works really hard at making us sound good, and we really appreciate that. So, Dr. David, tell me something good, my man.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Thank everybody for listening. It's amazing the numbers that I see every time Mark posts them, shares them with us all. It's like, oh my God.
Yes.
So thank you to everybody that's listening. We have come across something that we would like to share with each other and with all of you. It's a term that 2 months ago I had never heard of before. And as of a month ago, it became acquainted. I heard it, and then in the last couple of weeks, I've done a lot of reading about it, which is to say, I don't know jack shit about what we're going to talk about.
I don't know fuck about shit.
So I want everybody who's listening to understand that everybody talking is learning. We're all learning about this term, what it means. Does it apply to us? How so? Does it apply to other people that in our lives? The term is moral injury. And those of you who are sitting with a device right now, if you go look up moral injury, you will see a definition. Google will provide you with one. Then you'll see a long list of articles that give you a lot more information about how the term was developed, the history of it, the research into it, and so forth. So since it's new for us, and it is absolutely an aspect of law enforcement work and other lines of professions as well, there was a lot of discussion in the things I read about healthcare workers, teachers, lawyers, doctors, mental health people. So I'm going to read, there was a lot of definitions, man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there is.
Yeah.
And of the 4 articles I shared with the team, the one definition I thought was the most useful. I'm just going to read it. It's from the Scientific American magazine. Moral injury is a specific trauma that arises when people face situations that deeply violate their conscience or threaten their core values. Psychology Today also had a good one. I'm going to read it too. It's very simple. Moral injury is the social, psychological, and spiritual harm that arises from a betrayal of one's core values, such as fairness, justice, and loyalty. Now, I thought about that. I read all the other examples, and I have like 2 pages of examples here from the 4 articles. And they range from the really obvious one that I liked a lot because it's obvious is you're in combat and you are ordered to retreat from your position and you leave behind a wounded soldier that was fighting beside you minutes before. And you're ordered to leave. That is a moral injury.
Mm-hmm.
Your inclination is to stay there, help that person, do what you can to save their life, ease their pain, and so forth. But you're ordered to turn around and run. Go somewhere else. So you have to leave that soldier. I thought that was a really good example. One that Donnie and Mark have talked about on the show before, that, boy, when I read that first article in Firehouse, immediately took me to the episode. Oh, man. Where you and Donnie are watching a woman die.
Yes, the truck fire.
25A.
Yeah. Yep, up there on 25A. It's when the woman ran inside of the truck.
You're standing there watching her, and you cannot do a damn thing.
Nope.
And I thought that was one of the examples they gave. It was a similar situation like I know Donnie has talked about before, where there's a child who's drowned.
Oh, yeah.
And you go to pull that child out of the pond or whatever, and you can't revive the child.
Yeah.
That is an example of a moral injury. Your inclination is to do everything you can to save that person, that child, but circumstances don't allow that. It's too late.
Trigger alert.
And then it goes all the way to things that were a little bit harder for me to grasp.
Okay.
Like, I don't know. I'm thinking anybody that's a therapist or mental health person, because I know some of you are listening, I don't have a lot of trouble saying to somebody that calls me on the phone for coaching or clinical back in the day, I really want to see you. I want to make an appointment. I don't have any time. I don't have any more time to see you. My inclination is, yes, to serve everybody that knocks on the door. But there's only, as my friend Neil Young would say, an ambulance can only go so fast.
Right.
And so I only have so many hours a day, days in the week, and so forth. And on occasion, I like to sleep or take a shit. So, and I don't do coaching while I'm shitting. I don't know. I just felt funny about that.
That's good to know. That's good to know.
So I don't have to ever worry about a flush.
That's right.
I'm going to mute you while I
Those sound effects may
Dr.
become
Dave, I've been...
Man, it's from the listener in. I'm telling you.
It's good to know that you're fully focused.
That's right, man. And then it went so far as to say a veterinarian putting down an animal is in a situation where she may experience a moral injury.
Okay.
Now,
They don't feel that the animal is worthy of, but the customer comes in and says, "No, I want this animal euthanized."
And even under almost any situation, it would be considered a situation where a moral injury might arise.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought, it's really obvious from reading all these examples and then the research that was cited in Scientific American that you given a situation where, you can get, that would be a moral injury.
Mm-hmm.
But not everybody experiences it. It depends on the person. It depends on their background, their core values, how that situation was communicated to them, what they needed to do, a lot of specific variables.
Mm-hmm.
So the 5 of us sitting in this room right now might go through the same situation, and 3 of us might not have a moral injury at all, and 2 of us might.
Mm-hmm.
And the research seems to indicate that roughly 15 to 45% of people in moral injury contexts actually experience a moral injury. So it's common. It happens a lot. But it's not like if you didn't experience a moral injury, if we talk about examples tonight that that makes sense, but you yourself didn't experience one, don't fault yourself. It's not like there's something wrong with you.
Right.
It's that a lot of people go through, like me telling somebody, no, I can't see you. No, I can't serve you. I got no harm here. I don't experience anything negative. And I don't know too many therapists that do.
Right.
Because we're all kicking ass all day long, all week long. It's like, come on.
Well, right, but isn't in that instance? I can't talk. Incense, yeah, we're in here.
Incense, that's a
We're here
different-
smoking weed,
Yeah, this
incident. If you can't get to him today, and this is what we talked about, something will come up. You'll have a cancellation. I can call you back in a couple of weeks, or you want me to put you on the cancellation list, and I'll get you in.
Right.
Or that person's going to call a colleague. Hey, I can't get you in, but hey, Mr. Hack could.
Right.
He's got some time on his schedule, he told me.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I did.
Right.
Because I was looking for a full-time therapist to move on from Dave. You can, like we talked about, you can get so far with the coaching, but you need to get to the bottom of some of these things.
Yeah.
And so I wanted a therapist. I need a therapist. And I made some phone calls, got on Google, and you call some guy out of Greenville, and I'm like, he looks okay. I can get you in 6 months from now, and whatever. And you're like, fuck, I need now. Dude.
Yeah, exactly.
So you call another guy, and I called Dave, and I'm like, hey, who do you have? Blah, blah, blah. And he did get me into one, and actually, Mrs. Het got me into another one.
There you go.
And I dropped Dr. Dave's guy. I'm like, yeah.
Fuck that guy.
But it actually, so I was going somewhere with other people, but right in my backyard, right in my lane next to me, he's like, hey, how about this one? So, I probably have that, like, hey, you don't fucking know what I'm talking about, blah, blah, blah. And he's my guy. And who would have known? And I went in there thinking, fuck this guy. He ain't going to help me. And
but then that gets down
10 seconds after talking to him, I'm like, dude, what the fuck? This is my guy.
That's my dude.
You can step in here and add on because it's perfect. I'm just
but what I think what
once before and you didn't like him.
right because I wasn't ready.
Now that you're ready.
that micro. Just get her in the back.
Okay.
Come
No,
on
I wasn't
in.
ready.
Come on in so we
Right.
can hear you.
Right. But you got to be ready, and you got to be willing to put that time and find the effort, and you'll find the guy.
But I can I think I can equate part of that moral injury is like with a police officer or firefighter, to where you're given an expectation, you're given a code of conduct, because some of them will have these are our guiding principles. That was a big one. Ours
Core
is
values.
There you go, and all that.
Yeah.
To serve and protect, do no harm. Blah blah blah. So you're living your life that way, or you're trying to conduct yourself like that, honorably, with integrity,
Right.
et cetera. But then when you see in your own industry, And I know for me personally, when you start witnessing corruption and you start witnessing that thing, that there's where you're really starting to wrestle with stuff.
I think for me, it was seeing, like you said, Dr. David, an actual drowning that meant so much to all of us. It meant so much to all of us. And the corruption that came with literally who was responding and who wasn't.
Right.
It was so emotionally driven by people that cared, and then there was the, hey, how can we look as we respond to this particular drowning? And that was the first time as a police officer that I ever understood that it was more than just what you feel and what you respond to as an officer. Like, it's more than that. It's what your leadership wants to portray to the media, and it isn't what is actually occurring. Or with Sergeant Basie, I know you know what I'm talking about.
No, yeah.
It was so much more than actually just helping.
Right.
It was, how can we make that particular department look great in the media? And that wasn't even the focus that we had at that point.
Right. Our focus was getting the job done.
It was to get the job done and to like recover and and
that was that particular one. It was a family hearing area.
That fucked me up.
Yeah, that one.
That was the first one within my first 2 months of being an officer that really gave me an idea of how the department worked. That was kind of that awakening that you realize that you're not that your dream and your goals are not exactly aligned with the department that you're within.
Exactly.
So with PTSD and with moral injury, I guess my question to you is when I'm looking.
That's heavy.
It is.
That's heavy because I forgot about that until he was talking about it. But
this repressed stuff keeps
I know. It
coming.
does. It comes up. But you're like, hey, red flag. That is exactly what happened.
Yeah.
That's what happened.
But when treating it, were you seeing in your research where the treatments for moral injury and PTSD, the symptoms, they mask one another. They're very similar from what I was reading. And so what I was reading one article, and I didn't see a completion to it, was that the treatment for it is different.
Right.
So do you want to expand on that a little bit?
Let me go back to the differences between moral injury and PTSD, because I think that's a really important one. No, that's a great one, man.
I propelled us ahead a little bit. I'm getting ahead of ourselves.
But I would say both within our department are the same. Moral injury, because
you get the PTSD from the experience, but then you get the moral injury from the outcome.
You're fine.
Right.
This is normal. It's normal.
Right.
PTSD and moral injury obviously kind of go together. There's obviously many situations you can think of, like the one in combat, where somebody's firing bullets at you as you're trying to fire bullets back and pull your wounded comrade somewhere, and then you get ordered. There's a lot of variables there that are indeed traumatic. And in another example that was given of a moral injury, you're a law enforcement and somebody shoots at you, and so you shoot them and you kill them. Completely justified shoot. Somebody was trying to kill you and you had a gun and you killed them. That's life, man. And so you go over to identify the person that was firing at you, and you find a picture of his kids about how much he loved their daddy or mommy, and how much they love their mommy, and how they're looking forward to the vacation, and you realize, holy shit, what I did means those children will never have a dad or a mom again. And that, for not all, but for some people, is a moral injury. It's also a PTSD situation because somebody was trying to end your life.
Right.
And you ended up ending their life So there's a lot of trauma there. There's a lot of moral injury situations are both the same. But, as Mark said, very right, from what we all understand, we're all still learning. If you have a moral injury, the primary experience inside is guilt and shame. The primary experience with PTSD is anxiety. You're going to have guilt and shame. I can almost guarantee you that. But your primary experience inside is how anxious you feel, how agitated you feel, how uncomfortable in all these new situations you didn't feel uncomfortable in before, you do now. That anxiety is the primary thing the clinician's going to end up dealing with, as opposed to guilt and shame. And as Mark said in a very real way, a lot of what happens in terms of both is in terms of how the things turned out. If you go through a trauma situation and everybody's alive at the end of the day, you all get together and debrief, go through your crisis stuff, and work with each other and support each other. But a moral injury is different. You're going to take that home in a different kind of way than you would a PTSD or a trauma situation. The moral injury ends up kind of like, as one of the articles put it, it brings your person into question. It brings who you are as an individual into question, not just like somebody was trying to kill me.
Right.
That's plenty powerful enough. But moral injuries make you question who you are as a person. And the capacity to forgive yourself becomes a huge part of the experience and the treatment for moral injury. It does for PTSD too. That's been my experience, but not anything close to the degree that was being described with moral injury. What do you think, y'all?
Well, immediately as you were talking about that, you were talking about the guilt angle, and I was thinking about our critical incident, Kelli, that we had over on Maynard. How much guilt and shame I carried around for that forever. Is immediately, and when I read that article on Firehouse, that's what struck me, was the amount of guilt and amount of shame that I carried around, since 2017.
I knew as soon as we all read that
that's where I was going with it.
Yeah, I knew
Here's MTC milking this son bitch out again.
I know that's how you felt about that, but that's not how I felt about that.
Well, right. No, you were hating my ass for a long time after that.
Not hating, but I think that if Dr. David, did you read it?
Yes.
The one that we sent in the group chat.
Yeah.
Okay. So I know that people could perceive it differently than what you did.
Right.
You and I have a different perception.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah,
I'm
saw
gonna be
one
honest,
way and I saw
I know,
another.
but like you and I have a different relationship, where we care deeply about each other in such a strong way that I would say that it's more than traditionally a sergeant would care about their people, because you know my kids. You know my child. At the time, you knew Karsten. You met him. You met my husband.
That was
you
at your
knew
wedding.
him. You were literally the only person. You were the only person at my wedding. So it's different on that aspect, because I trusted you to be my witness.
That's all right. Just take a deep breath.
Take your time,
just let it flow through. We'll keep rolling with this.
But you and Susan knew my heart as far as law enforcement goes. And in that moment that we had that critical incident, it was different.
It was.
You know, you trusted me, but at the same time, I way more trusted you. And you didn't trust me enough, I would say, to go into that further moment that Dr. David, you and I have talked about ahead of time. But moving forward, though, that's really intense.
Yes.
But having that same anxiety of knowing that knowing that the moments that bring us to who we can be and who we are as far as law enforcement.
Yeah.
We all read what we shared in that text message group.
Right.
And I think we all took different things from it. And what I took from it is that we all grow individually.
Mm-hmm.
We all grow individually as officers, as sergeants, as therapists. But we all have the same amount of shame and anxiety that we bring to moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that what I have as moving forward, I've already addressed that with him.
Right, exactly.
I have already addressed that with him. It's been drunken nights in D.C. at Police Week, at the inaugural gala,
Mm-hmm.
like days after that critical incident for him and I. Like, we've gone through that. But as we talk, like, there's events that I have experienced that I have not gone through with people locally that I could go through.
Mm-hmm.
And knowing the people that we've gone through those critical incidents in their local.
Right.
We should go through that with them.
Sure. We can do that.
I think we should. I think it would help. I think it would help in the fact that I know that I did everything I could.
Yeah. Well, and
you did everything you could.
Correct. You at the incident, you were doing as you should have. I always liken it back to
it's that anxiety and that shame that we were talking about.
Right.
That great shame and that great anxiety that you have, that you feel like you just want. This is stupid.
That's all right.
It's not stupid. This is literally why we are doing this, because
exactly
people need to.
Take your time, dear.
I know. People need to know it's okay.
Yeah.
This is okay.
Yeah.
That is okay. And thanks for sharing that.
We also need to be remiss.
This is okay, but it's also very important that we address it.
Yes.
And so I think that for us, it would be great to address it. That, like, we did everything we could.
Mm-hmm.
We have done everything we could.
Mm-hmm.
And I would like to hear.
Well, the best thing about that incident is we didn't kill anybody. We didn't get killed. We didn't put anybody down.
Right.
So,
But at this,
if I don't know what the term is, but if you want to say, oh yeah, it was a win for everybody, but
it's
the
not a
mental
win.
end
It's
of it
never a
is
fucking win.
right.
We're not fucking winning.
Right.
Well,
I don't feel like a winner. Do you feel like a winner?
Well, I feel like we've survived it.
I survived,
and
like,
and learned from it.
Right, we did learn.
Oh, learn.
But it's taken a long time to get there, and
Yeah.
putting those steps into place,
Right.
right.
and getting through recovery, and that's what I'd like to celebrate on our new show, which is
Anger Not Alone.
we're Anger
Right.
Not Alone, exactly. Good job there, Mrs. Hat.
Yeah, I think that's important. Is knowing that you're not. No, I'm serious. Like, I think
I'm listening to you.
That's important. That you're not alone in
Exactly.
the recovery or the understanding or like working through the incident yourself. Like, there are multiple incidents we have not worked through.
Oh yeah, like a lot of my guilt and shame as a supervisor for like 18 years, I didn't have those conversations because hey, as soon as we clear this and our investigators come in, blah blah blah, guess what? You're going back out and you're hitting the road and
Time to write tickets. Colonel loves tickets.
And there's so many times where I'm like, oh, I just love to have my shift come over, have dinner, and just talk with them, blah, blah, blah. But, somebody called off sick. We got to crash. And you just go on, and you survive. And I look back at my career, and I'm like, man, I really did some disservices to a lot of my guys. And I think they realize it.
I wouldn't call it a disservice.
I wouldn't
because
either.
They came into your
my
office.
Eyes. I would not. I wouldn't call it a disservice. We just needed to talk about it a little bit more. I think it would have been.
We didn't
totally
talk about
fine.
it. We didn't have time to talk about it.
If we would have talked about it,
But your people would stop in, and that's what we talked about on the last episode or the one before. We were talking about where you said, "Hey, man, I got to roll out of here because my plate's full." But you were being that servant, supervisor.
I think they could come but I didn't do disservice to work through it. And hey, we probably need some help on it because our debriefing was like me and like probably the janitor and the cleaning lady who came in like, hey Gail, you want to come in here and like old grandma would come in and that was kind of our debrief. We didn't have structure. We didn't have, hey, you want to talk about it? And everybody's reaction is, no, I'm good. Yeah, I'm good.
But for a lot of those, like with our critical stress incident debriefing, there's no how-to book.
Right.
But I wanted to go in and I was looking at it more operational. What did we do wrong?
Right.
And I wanted to point out the fact that Kelli performed correctly.
Right.
And where I felt, and I don't know if this applies moral injury or not, that my management had nothing to do with it. It's like, okay, we really need to get this done. We had the SWAT commander come down, and because I really wanted to hear his perspective, because it was just a total clusterfuck trying to get the SWAT
it always
team out.
Is, man.
It was
always
just,
is.
But we learned some things about that there wasn't some things in place. If we have this again. So we had an armed suicidal person.
Right.
That's what SWAT teams are for, not our happy asses going there and trying to make it happen,
Has he got a bag of weed in the car? Because we'll take that.
Again,
exactly.
I'm going to say, I think an elbow pad or a helmet would have helped.
Right. Hell, we're out there.
Well, shit, you can't have everything in their car. Well, we
had
everything.
We didn't have a shield. We had nothing.
And they show up in their turtle suits.
Yeah.
And
they show up like
what do you think a trooper has? We have a roll of tape and 5 cones in our trunk.
Seriously, that's about what I had.
Have a good time.
And I'm like, hey, please don't shoot me.
Through the wall.
Can I have an elbow pad or
no, fuck no, dude.
This kind of hurts.
Something?
Hell, we just got rifles 5 years ago.
Dude. Right.
Oh,
so
we had cool
hang on a
rifles.
minute. Let's get back to what we're talking about. I'm going to bring my coach whistle in here in a minute. So treating moral injury, because thanks for sharing, Kelli. Appreciate that. And I know where I was really, it would just shut me down. I mean, I would turn into a bowl of flipping Jello.
Right.
And we even had that in earlier episodes of this show to where, the healing part was still coming on.
Right.
So,
healing part is intense. I'm just going to say that.
Trust me, I've spent a lot. I can own an Airstream right now.
It's not because of you. It's only because of Dr. David that I felt comfortable with crying right now.
Right. But the treatment of it. I mean, would you go through the same steps like with EMDR?
These are really good questions, and again, all the chicken shit answers I got are just.
Kung fu answers he's got.
We're all
Chicken
listening.
shit.
We're all learning, and so what I'm going to say is what I read in the several of the articles.
Right.
Number one, EMDR for moral injury is going to have some benefit, but not a lot.
Right.
It won't get you to where you want to go. Trauma recovery, it'll get you where you want to go most of the time. There's a different way of thinking about treating moral injury, and it involves using often spiritual people like your priest or your pastor, or maybe somebody who's just spent a lot of time studying faith, applying faith, exploring faith, and can really apply and can have a conversation with you about what you've just gone through as a moral injury. So there's a spiritual aspect to it that's probably more prominent. I remember the first thing you and I talked about was getting you back to church.
Yeah.
And once you went back to church, I mean, you did it immediately. Like the next Sunday you went.
Yeah.
And I saw you the next week and I was like, oh yeah.
How'd that go?
That went real well. That was like a step toward. something good.
Right.
So,
well, and I remember our long conversations because, you were asking me lots of coming out. I'm Catholic, for those who don't know. And one thing I like about the Catholic Mass is the ritual. You all right over there, Mr. Hat?
Yeah, I'm just watching your blind dog walk around.
Right. Dog Millie.
Stuck in the corner
sound like you're
there
going to
for a
start playing
minute.
La Cucaracha now. Then
Stuck in the corner there for a minute. All right, I'm sorry.
But we were talking about the spiritual and Mass, and I think at this, I don't know. I always felt like that you were kind of intrigued,
Absolutely.
about how it worked, and that's one thing I like about being Catholic is I like the ritual. Of the Catholic Mass. Yeah. But so we had to get back to the 4 F's. Faith was the first one.
Right.
Friends, family, favorite activities, and at that point in the game, that was early on. That was one of my first traumatic incidents, and I tried to get those feet back down on the ground.
Right.
So what I want to segue into, maybe we'll hold that for the second half. But what I want to segue into is what gets you into the beginning of therapy, and where you fail to embrace the work. Because I can tell you, I spent a lot of time and a lot of money, and I wasn't embracing the work, meaning I wasn't doing the things that you were telling me to do. You need to make some decisions, and you need to start laying out a life plan. And to kind of wrap that back to where moral injury is and PTSD, and I think what happens to some first responders is you feel like you kind of get welded into this mindset.
Very good. Yes.
It's kind of like I'm adrift. I'm the old sailing ship stuck in the doldrums down on the equator, and I just can't get out of this. It's north south, and it just seems like, well, tomorrow will be another day, and that sounds okay. That's cool, but when do I start seeing improvement? What can I do next? I'm coming to you, we're working on this. And I remember for a long time, I always felt it was kind of like reverse, that you want me to do EMDR. I'm like, fuck you, I ain't going there.
Right.
And you're like, why not? Bad shit in that box.
That sounds terrible.
That's intense.
Don't want to live this shit again, man. I lived it once. It wasn't good.
Yeah.
I don't want to look at it again. I don't even want to fart in that direction. So no. You want me to see
Such
no.
a poet.
Well,
I don't want to.
but I can tell you,
in that direction.
right?
Yeah.
But I can tell you that like what Mrs. Hat said, you're not alone. There's a lot of people that experience the same thing, and that's the purpose of the Shield Within, is to let you all know that collectively, the people sitting around this table, not only trashing my audio equipment, but are fucked up. The Kelly is quite entertaining
I'm
tonight.
sorry. It's because I've been crying all night.
Right. So you can take my mic stand, jam it through the table. But anyway, it's that ability to keep moving forward,
right,
and to keep working your process. So I guess I'm going to ask you again. Maybe I'm not getting the answer for me on moral injury. It's a lot of it is because me, and I like it what Kelly said when she first got on the department. She had this attitude, or she had this vision of what law. We're all brothers.
Take care of everything.
That I would be taken care of.
Everything's going to be taken care of.
No, that not everything.
Oh yeah, I'll take care of it.
Individually.
I'm here to solve your problems. I'm here to fix everything.
No, that
is what I thought.
I would be taken care of.
That
they would take care of me.
I never had that thought.
Well, you were a hat, and I was in a local department,
this
which
hat
is the
will
difference.
Take care of you.
Yeah, no, the hat. I knew seeing the hat, like, I'm on my own if I'm out here.
Right.
No.
I can get you a hat.
You had the Maytag hat.
No, seriously, like
David.
They
driving a bus with that thing.
They gave that like you would be taken care of. Like I'm gonna take care of you. I joined
we got your back, man.
Fantastic department that was fully committed to donating every minute.
Fully committed for sure.
Yes, to taking care of you and your mental health, and they're gonna welcome your family and come with us. And
I'm sorry, was she under the old chief or the newer chief?
Yeah, no, old chief and new chief was like a sergeant there.
Gotcha.
And they brought my 9-year-old child a stuffed animal.
Oh, there you go. Oh, we have those in our trunk of our car. Here you go.
Yeah,
Right.
All my kids have
that's
those.
great.
It's for the
Except if
screaming
you're
2-year-old.
9,
Yeah.
if you're 9, you're like not
But-
into that. Anyways,
But working the program, working through that.
the
You were talking
processes.
about trauma resolution.
Yeah, the
Right.
So-
processes of that.
Give me. Now I know we did a lot of work, and some of it seems kind of like a blur a little bit. But
Right.
give me an example of what, if you can, what a trauma resolution session, or how would we step into that?
Trauma resolution starts with the EMDR protocol is fairly step by step and specific.
Right.
So you start off with, okay, what's stuck? What's image? Whatever happening. It's an event, a thought, a dream, an emotional pattern, whatever it would be. What is something stuck? So what's stuck? And then you look for what. This is where we get into moral injury area, to me, is what is the negative cognition? Meaning, what is the thought you have in your head about yourself that is negative? Mm-hmm. And when I read through all the articles of moral injury, the most common phrase I saw was, I'm a failure.
Okay.
That when first responders, lawyers, doctors, teachers, etc., get involved in a very critical situation and it doesn't come out the way they want it to,
Mm-hmm.
I'm a failure.
Right.
Trauma resolution then goes to what's the positive cognition? What do you want to think about yourself now? I did everything I could do is a common one.
Mm-hmm.
Then you ask about where's the emotion. When you think about that event or that pattern of behavior, what's the emotion that you feel? Where do you feel that in your body? And then when you think about that event that happened, how distressing is it to you now on a scale of 1 to 10?
Right.
And then you do the trauma resolution, you do the EMDR movement, and at the end of that you find out what material has gone through the person's neurology. As you watch the person do the tapping or whatever, you can see changes in behavior, facial expression, pulse rate, breathing rate, all sorts of nonverbal signs. You look for those. You know the person's remembering something, but the memories are happening so fast, so fast that you can't, there's just no time. It doesn't leave you time to focus on any one incident or really even the string of them. They just fly by. And when you're done, your brain works a little differently.
Right.
Moral injury, resolution of a moral injury ends up being involving making amends. That if you walk out of a situation and your morals have been violated, you feel like you're a failure, you feel like there's something wrong with you, then there's therapeutic value in doing something like volunteering.
Yeah. Yes.
And it's something Joe Terry and I talked about a few months ago, that part of the treatment that she's starting to infuse into her work with fire departments all over the place, mostly, is involving pushing people into doing service.
Yes.
Immerse yourself in service and find out how healed you become from the moral injury part of it. Makes total sense to me. There's another thing that was discussed that's been, it's a therapeutic intervention created by probably the primary researcher on moral injury, a guy named Brett Litz, L-I-T-Z. If you want to look his stuff up, it's really good. Adaptive disclosure. Now, I got a lot of reading on that to do. But
You're going to be a busy guy, so we loaded you up with moral injury, didn't we?
that's okay. It's heading in that, I was trending in that direction anyway.
Adaptive disclosure.
But adaptive disclosure, I think, involves very much what y'all were talking about.
Yeah.
That there's such benefit at the end of a critical situation, getting together and talking to each other.
Yeah.
It's just that simple. It's not like you have to have a psychoanalyst there to spend the next 3 days. No.
Right.
You need an hour or two to simply talk to each other about the experiences you just went through, what it's left inside you, your thinking, your emotions, and that may not happen, as you said, Mark, earlier, until afterwards. So, like, it may be a week later. Maybe
Right.
you have a debriefing right afterwards, like I understand fired people do. But then you do a week later. Because some of the moral injury shit and the trauma shit ain't going to show up for days.
Okay, so let me ask you this. So we go through it, and we're not going to keep talking about Maynard, but but everyone saw it a little bit differently. So, but
Yes.
don't you kind of go into a sort of shock? You know, it took what? See the woman burning in the car, because I had that here. I mean, I repressed the memory of watching her fanning the flames out of her face.
Right.
I remember the incident. I remember the woman being in the car, but the details.
Yes.
Some of that shit that was like, man, this woman's actually trying to put her, and she was totally engulfed, and she's trying to put the flames out.
But do you remember the individual at between the 68 and the 69 that was like stuck?
Yes, we'll get to that in a minute, or we may grab it here on the next one.
Right,
we're running up against a break
but like
here.
that to me was more intense than our incident on Maynard.
You're talking about the one northbound.
Yeah. That
So,
to me was more memory to me than.
Were you working it?
Yeah.
Okay. We'll talk about that one there.
Yeah.
I guess we're going to have a twofer out of this, so we'll talk about that here in the next one. But
Like
I guess what I'm talking
negative
about
memory.
is that if you have the critical incident stress debriefing the next day, you may be still in a little bit of shock.
Yes.
Can that happen?
Absolutely. It's called dissociation. And
Okay.
It's an incredibly common thing the brain does to you. It does dissociation. You don't choose it.
Okay.
Your brain does it for you. It doesn't. It understands. We don't have to think this shit. Okay, it just happens. It's
Right.
automatic. It's like inhaling and exhaling. I don't inhale and go, okay,
Time to push it on.
time to exhale now.
Right,
You just
right.
do it. It's the same
Yeah.
thing with dissociation.
Right.
When a woman who's being raped doesn't want, can't, shouldn't, no help in remembering all the details that were going on in that environment when you were getting raped. I don't remember all that shit. What's wrong with me? You can't remember all that shit because your brain went into dissociation mood. It knew you couldn't handle that shit, so it took all that data, the hearing, the smell, took all that data and put it in a file and locked it. Right?
Okay.
Instantly.
Boom.
As it was happening. And then you have the debriefing and you don't remember shit.
Right.
You can't talk. You can't remember how you felt. You can't remember what you were thinking. You can't remember what the person did, how the whole interaction went. A week later, yeah.
Then you can remember.
Yeah.
Then you have
And
it.
so I understand perfectly well why they do it right afterwards. Because there are people that suffer instantly. The moral injury stuff, the trauma stuff, some people, it just hits them real hard instantly. But for other people, and I think it's really common, moral injury and trauma both, it's something that shows up more powerfully, more profoundly, more deeply later.
All right. Well, you know what time it is? It's time for Donnie Keith and music.
Time. Yes.
May your days and nights find you strong and safe. May you take your place as your family's face. As you do the shit that we won't do. As you embrace the risk you must go through. May you grow in strength and heal and find your heart, your soul, and your mind. You look at your life and grin. You have a home, the shield within.